Good morning, everyone. Unconscious Chats with Sandra Meehan. Today, we've got a really, I'm just going to love this topic, and it's all about sex trafficking and how a tea company is making a difference. And my guest today is Brad, and I'm just going to use his first name. If he chooses to use his last name, he can. So I'm going to give you a little bit of info about Brad. Brad and his wife Megan have been married for almost 25 years and are parents to 6 children, ranging from the age of 23 and married with their first 2 grandchildren, all the way down to their youngest 4. They have homeschooled their 2 boys and 4 girls all the way through while still running several businesses. Brad grew up on a dairy farm in Iowa during the farm crisis years early in the mid-80s, when farmers were losing their operations. Even though he saw the struggle, he also saw the teamwork and community. This greatly influenced his perspective on life, and when it came time for Brad to start a family, he knew it had to be on a farm, even though it may be a small one. Together, Brad and his wife raised kids, chickens, pigs, a cow and her calf, and a dog. Can't have a farm without a dog. Life is very full. There is also this also impacted his compassion for those who are less fortunate and often forgotten by society. Over years, Brad has had several different careers, including delivering brand new $1 million fire trucks all over the US. During Brad's travel, he started noticing the plague of sex trafficking and wanted to get involved in the fight. One day, the opportunity presented itself. And I just got goosebumps bumps reading that, and especially when it came to one day the opportunity came for him to get involved. And personally, I think it's up to each and every single human being on this planet to be aware and to be involved in sex trafficking and helping these children, these women, these men to come out of it and to stop it. And to save them, because this is how we're going to save humanity and truly make a difference. Because life, at the end of the day, when we go up and we whoever we meet, whoever you believe in, God, the creator of the universe or whatever, when you stand before them and you aren't judged on the money that you made, you're not judged on all the things that you bought and you possess, you're actually looking at what you've done for somebody else. And I know that when Brad goes up to the pearly gates, whatever he chooses to call it, because he is a very religious man, that he will know that he's done his part and played a part here on the planet to create change and help save the lives of many people. So I'm just going to bring Brad up. So welcome, Brad, to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I find this topic really interesting. We're having a bit of a discussion before the show. It's something that's hot at the moment in a lot of channels, sex trafficking and stuff like that. I know here in Australia, it's been brought out into the open. It's something that's been hidden for many, many years. But even though it's been hidden, there's been very many people that have been fighting the long, hard fight for many a year, for 10, 15, maybe even longer than that, to help these girls, these babies, these children, these women and men to come through that. So
Right.
the name of you've got a tea company, and would you like to tell us the name of your tea company and what its mission is? And I'm going to drop out while you talk, so you've got the.
Okay, so Teshua Tea Company is the name. Teshua is really important to me because the name Teshua actually means deliverance, and it's the Hebrew word for deliverance. And when my business partner Andrew is a missionary in communist Asia, and he and the team rescue underage girls out of sex trafficking over there. They get the girls into our rescue and rehab facility where they're taught. Well, first off, they're given all new clothes. They're given medical care. They go through a medical exam, make sure if they're pregnant, we get them the crisis pregnancy counseling they need. If they have venereal diseases or anything like that, we make sure that they get the treatment that they need. But then they're taught to read and write. We teach them work crafts and skills like how to make bracelets, how to make coasters, how to make clay figurines, how to harvest and process tea and coffee, how to run a CNC laser machine, how to run a tea shop. We want them to have this basis of being able to learn to be entrepreneurs, how to be capitalists in this communist country, and really how to be able to stand on their own and be able to make a living on their own. And so then what we do, and where my part comes into play, is we actually buy the products from the girls and bring the products stateside and sell the products over here. And then half our profits and 100% of our donations are going back to the rescue facility for the care of the girls. So the girls have been paid up front. Whenever we buy products from them, they've been paid up front. And that gives them money while they're still under our care, and they're able to save that up so that when they leave, they're able to stand on their own. And we'll get into that a little bit further later on here. But that's really kind of the basis of Teshua and what we are all about.
Awesome. So how did it get started? And yeah, how did it get started? With your tea company or the trafficking, rescuing the girls, and what does the word of your tea company actually mean?
Yeah. So again, the name means deliverance. And actually, when I first sent him the name, he had already been doing the rescue work and kind of how we got started. Let me back up on this a little bit. How we got started is, like I said, I was delivering the $1 million fire trucks all over the country, and I had gotten to know Andrew from him visiting our church several times, and I was really intrigued and interested in what he was doing and the rescue work that he was doing, the missions work that he was doing, and he started posting some pictures of some of the bracelets that the girls were making, and I'm like, you know what? I could sell these and I could have, Brad's little bracelet shop or whatever, and it would get them money and help them get on their feet. And yet, it'd be something that I could do from home, and I wouldn't have to be traveling all the time with the little kids and stuff. And so it really looked like a good combination. And as I got to talking to Andrew about it, I'm like, you know what? I don't want this to just be Brad's little bracelet shop. I want this to be a much bigger, much more impactful deal. And so I said to him, I said, what if we formed a partnership and half the profits went back to you, and you could do with them as you see fit and stuff. And so that's where this whole thing came about almost 2.5 years ago. And then, so then we started bringing the products stateside and selling them over here. And as I said, the name means deliverance. Well, when I first sent him the word Teshua, he broke it down in the language of the country that he works in, and te means special, shu means tree, and is the emphasis at the end of a sentence. And being a Christian and being a believer, that was really special to me because, I believe that my salvation and my redemption and my deliverance comes through the cross of Christ. And so that name just really summarized the whole picture of what we're trying to do with the girls and the deliverance and the redemption that we're trying to bring to them.
The word, like when you said special tree, well, tea is classed as something that's special. There's a lot of ceremony that's around it in many different countries, especially in the Asian countries. So I could see how that and what you're doing is special. It's like you got a word from it was just channeled from the universe, and this is what you're going to you're going to call it. So I know the work that you do, and I'm not going to say is the work you're doing dangerous. It is dangerous, this work, and it takes a lot. It would take a lot of planning, a lot of things that you have to do, a lot of things you have to be mindful with. Can you share with us what the work actually is, and as much as you can without compromising anything that you and your partner does, so the
Hmm.
viewers have an idea just what it is that these girls either go through
Hmm.
or where they're living and that. So, yeah, there's any length of time on this is quite fine. So don't feel you have to
Okay.
wrap it up.
Okay. So, just to give people an idea before I get into all this, people will sometimes say, how come you don't talk about Andrew? How come you don't, or how come you don't share where he's from, and so on and so forth, and to give people an idea of the technology that we're battling, the danger behind it, and so on and so forth. The country that he works in is so um, uses technology so much to spy on their population that he actually is a Bible. He has a Bible schools over there, and he works with leper villages and orphanages, and aside from just his rescue work with the girls too. But one of the Bible school students one day took some pictures, and while they were at the Bible school, and the government of this country was able to geolocate, because smartphones all have geolocation. When you take pictures, you can actually turn it off, and people should. Uh, but if they don't know that and they take pictures, then the government can actually go in and geolocate and figure out where you're at when you took that picture. And so they must have taken a picture from inside the school, and they must have seen something that had the name of Jesus on it or something, and the government came in and raided the school, and so we now have Bible school students and a teacher sitting in jail in this country. So that kind of gives people a little bit of background on the danger of what we're dealing with. Andrew and the team, the way a rescue mission typically works, um, some kind of interesting backstory here first. So, um, when Andrew first went over to this country, he opened a restaurant, and he had posted a job opportunity for some waitresses and stuff, and a young lady came in and she wanted to apply for this job, and he said, okay, come back on Saturday. This was a Wednesday. He said, come back in on Saturday and I'll give you an interview, and be there at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock came and went, 10 o'clock came and went, 11 o'clock came and went, 12 o'clock she finally shows up, and he's like, I'm not hiring this girl. And but he felt like he was supposed to, so he did. She ended up becoming a Christian, and she brought one of her friends on to work at the restaurant too, and that girl became a Christian. And these two girls both really had a heart to see girls come out of the brothels, to see the brothel shut down. And so they, because relationship is really important in this country, they started taking gifts into the brothel owners. They started taking gifts into the girls, and they developed those relationships. And they sat down with this brothel owner one day, and they said, hey, do you want to meet an American that speaks your language? And he goes, well, heck, I've never met an American, let alone one that speaks my language fluently. And so, sure. And so Andrew had an opportunity to sit down with the gentleman, and this guy chose to become a Christian. Andrew shared the gospel with him, and he became a Christian. And as a result of that, he ended up setting his girls free. He had 20 girls, and he set them free, got them all bus tickets back to their home villages, gave them severance packages, and got them back to their homes and stuff. And then he actually came on and actually started helping Andrew and the girls and the team rescue more girls out of the brothels and stuff, because he knew all the boys in the club, so to speak. So this would be like John Gotti or Al Capone becoming a Christian. I mean, this guy was mafia. He was Asian mafia, and he takes his life into his own hands doing the work that he does with us. Because if it was discovered that he was helping us, it would not end well for him. He is dealing with mafia guys, and so anyway, so he and the team get a layout of the buildings. The buildings are karaoke clubs, and that's their cover story for their brothels in this country. And so we have two guys that go in and spend the night singing. Obviously, they're karaoke clubs, so you don't have to participate in the brothel activities, but our guys go in and they wait for everybody else to get drunk. The security guards are going around all night long, drinking, handing out drinks and drinking themselves, and so our guys wait until everybody else gets completely sauced, and then uh, they have a layout of the building, so they go start a fight out by the bathroom someplace, a fight, and while they're having their fight, the rest of the team comes rushing in with the large Asian firecrackers and really starts mayhem. And literally, they start grabbing girls and pick them up and throw them over their shoulders and carry them out. Most of the time, the girls are completely drunk. They get them out into the rescue van, and at least one of our female staff is along. Uh, she explains to the girls what's going on and says, "Do you want to come with us?" We've always had 100% of the girls that said, "Yes, get me out of here." And so then we take the girls to our rescue facility where we get them the care and the medical care and all that stuff. And then they start going through the process of learning to heal, and we give them the counseling and the all the education that they need to rebuild. So that's really kind of how a rescue mission works. People ask, do the girls have the right to go back if they want to? Yes, they do. We don't hold them hostage. They are free to go if they want to. And this goes back to the danger, because we had one of the girls that decided she thought her pimp was in love with her. They had a twisted relationship, and so she was just absolutely convinced that he was in love with her. So she went back to him. She realized when he put her in the hospital for a week that he wasn't. And so when she came back to one of the Bible schools that Andrew runs, this guy called his corrupt police buddies along with some of his goon friends to come bust the place up. Somebody higher up in the police department, we still to this day don't know who, actually called another police department and had Andrew arrested for his own security, got him out of there. That caused everybody in the Bible school to flee and obviously get out of there. And so they took Andrew to a prison, put him there for the day, and then that night at midnight, they took him out the back door, and he's thinking, nothing leaves the back door of one of these Asian jails that ends well. This is not going to be good. And they actually took him to a hotel in an unmarked squad car and put him up for the night. And then later the next day, they explained to him what happened and that he was free to go and stuff, but they were protecting him and keeping him safe and stuff. So that really kind of summarizes kind of the danger of the whole situation. So we really have to rely on God's protection as believers. We have to rely on God's protection for the whole rescue mission, because it can get really dicey really quick, and it could end not very well at all.
That's Deb. I can only imagine what it would be like for those that are involved in it, because you'd really have to work really closely as a team. Teamwork would be imperative in it, and trust. But what I would like to ask, if you can answer this, Brad, is the age of the girls. And once you've educated them, and they've gone through the program, how long are they in there for, and where do they go after? Do they go home? Do they, it's because people will say this could be some sort of cult where you keep them in. I want to make this clear that it's not. Right. I know what people, I know what the viewers and the public and everything, because of what's happening in the world, want to make it clear that it's not, and that these girls are free to go, or these women or whatever.
Right. So so to give people a background on that, so the girls range anywhere. The youngest that we've rescued so far has been 11. They up to 18, 19 years old. They are free to go at any time. Even though we do share the gospel with them, they're free to reject it. Even though we give them crisis pregnancy counseling, they are free to abort their babies. We've had 4 other girls that have come to us pregnant. And before they have this child, as they're going through the whole process of the pregnancy, a lot of times the thought is this baby is going to be a constant reminder of the hell that I went through. And so we offer them crisis pregnancy counseling. And obviously, we do encourage them to keep their babies, but they have the free choice not to. Three of the four have chosen to keep their babies. The fourth one chose not to. She's actually, and surprisingly, is actually the one that's having a harder time recovering, because now she has not only the trauma that she went through, but now she has that haunting that, I killed my baby. The three that chose not to abort their babies are actually having an easier time, and the reason for that is, and a lot of people get tripped up about this, because they think, well, that baby would be this constant reminder of this awfulness that I went through, but actually it's the opposite. It's this baby now represents the teshua, the deliverance, the freedom that they're experiencing, and they see this new life as a new beginning, a new opportunity, the freedom that they're walking in. And so really it's actually the opposite. And so, like I said, the girls are free to go. They're free to accept the gospel. We have some of the girls that have not accepted the gospel, and but I can also tell you some of the success stories. One of the girls that came to us, she had been trafficked for 3 years. She had absolutely gone through hell. Raped multiple times a night, if I can talk. She came to us, and 27 days, I think it was 27 or 28 days in, to living in the rescue facility, she decided to become a Christian and accept Christ. And she had not had a peaceful night's sleep in 3 years. She would wake up with night sweats and night terrors and nightmares every night, all night long. And the night that she accepted Christ as her Savior, she slept peacefully for 9 hours. That was the first time in 3 years that she had slept peacefully. And she slept every night peacefully ever since. And she's actually gotten to where, and most of the girls that have become Christians in our rescue facility have actually gotten to the point where they can actually pray for their pimps and pray for the guys that abuse them. And so that deliverance is such a powerful thing. And in like I said, they have the right to choose. Do they want to go back? The one girl did go back, and she realized, this guy didn't love me. And so that kind of really summarizes, as far as how long will they be with us, that's kind of up to them. It's if they're 30 years and still living, or 30 years old and still living at home, might be time for baby bird to fly the nest at that point. But we do encourage them to get to the point where they can stand on their own. To give people a success story, one of the girls, she won't talk about her parents. She won't talk about how she came to be trafficked. She won't talk about what happened to her when she was trafficked. She did choose to become a Christian. And now she has actually gone through and completed all of her education. She learned to read and write and do all of her math and all that stuff. And then she actually passed her insurance classes and is now a licensed insurance agent and lives out on her own. She moved out a year ago and is standing on her own. Another one of our young ladies met a wonderful Christian young man and is now married and living on her own and starting a family and stuff. And so just to see the success stories that come out of this is just amazing. So.
I've lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you, that's it. What sort of background do these, or how do these girls come about to be trafficked? How do they end up in brothels? And I think for most of us in the Western world, in our world, that we don't understand that it's very different in some of these Asian countries, and we still have it here. And like I live in Australia, you're in the States, but most of us go around unaware that this is going on because it's not in our reality. We don't live in that economic or not social economic. I'm not quite sure what word to use here, which is the right word to use. But right. Like I think, as you said to when we were discussing before we came on, we're not looking past the end of our nose, and it's not until it's put in front of our face that we go, oh my God, this happens. So for those that aren't aware of how these, and
Mhm.
because most people say, well, these girls, they just go there, it's their own fault or whatever, and it's totally the opposite. Can you
Right.
give us some information on that, Andrew?
You mean Brad? Uh, Anyway, so yeah, I can because so one of the girls, for example, in this Asian country, they actually, if you're an orphan, you actually age out of the adoption system at 14. Well, where do you go as a 14-year-old girl? You're going to end up on the streets. You're out of the foster care system. You're out of the adoption system. You're out on the streets. What do you do? And next thing you know, somebody's being nice to you and offering you work, and next thing you know, you're suddenly kidnapped and trafficked. Um, One of the girls that is in our rescue facility, her parents went on vacation. A simple act that, how many parents have gone on vacation and left their kids with a family member? Um, Her uncle actually started abusing her sexually, and then he sold her off to his sister, and she started abusing her, and then started trafficking her, and then she sold her off to a brothel. And so it can be any number of factors. Sometimes their parents sell them, especially in the poorer communities. When they have nothing, their parents will be offered, hey, I have work for your daughter in this, other region. Here's so much money. Let me take her and put her to work, and um, but the parents don't realize that their daughter's being basically being bought and being trafficked. Um, there's any number of ways that they can get these girls, and it can be any number of socioeconomic realms, because Pastor Sam and I were talking yesterday on the show, and one of the things that he was sharing was that there was a couple girls, I think they were from here in Iowa, that their parents were dentists. Their parents were not poor. Their parents were dentists, and uh, the trafficker started saying, hey, he started out by saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to hurt your parents. And then as time went on, he said, if you don't keep doing this, I'm gonna tell everybody what you've been doing, and you're gonna destroy your parents' reputation, and everybody's gonna know who you are, and what and so the pimps and the kidnappers use, a lot of times they'll use blackmail, they'll use threats of violence. Um, one of the things that they apparently talked about uh, in this training that Pastor Sam was going through here in Iowa, they actually will oftentimes tell them, hey, the animal incinerators that we have around here, if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to incinerate your parents. And animal incinerators are a very real thing. We use them here in Iowa to discard animals, but the unfortunate part is that works for people too. I mean, if you can put a cow in it, you can put a couple people in it, and so the girls take it seriously. And I think that any one of us that was put into a situation at 13, 14, 15 years old where we were threatened with this kind of violence, you know it's pretty hard for somebody that young to be able to cut through the garbage, and uh, to not take this person seriously.
Yeah, and it comes down to education, I think, and awareness
Hmm.
as parents and as society, that we have programs in place to help our children become
Hmm.
aware. In the in a lot of the Asian countries, that's not possible in some areas,
Hmm.
but I think education worldwide, especially with all the internet now that we've got social media, and there's TikTok, there's
Hmm.
Facebook. Every social media platform is a platform for child trafficking.
Right. Well, and that brings up an interesting point, because I think a lot of times people, Pastor Sam and I were talking about this yesterday on our podcast. we were discussing it, and one of the things that we were talking about is that a lot of times people don't even realize that they're participating in trafficking. There's a lot of guys that are watching pornography and they don't realize the girl that I'm watching right now is a trafficking victim. They don't even, well, they're like, well, it's on a free site, so I'm not supporting them. Well, okay, nothing in life is free, first of all. Somebody is paying for that site to be put up there. I run a website, I run a podcast, I do these different things. In order for me to advertise our tea company, in order for me to, advertise the podcast, in order for me to even have it hosted on the platform, is kind of expensive every month. And so these porn sites are not running for free. Somebody's paying for it. And if you're supporting that, by supporting it, you're actually encouraging the advertisers on there. You're encouraging the pornographers to keep their stuff up on the site. And so it's not I'm going to step on a lot of toes here. Those of us that are looking at pornography, we're not just having innocent victims here, or innocent people here, that we're not hurting anybody, because we are. There's I think the number is somewhere between 30 and 50%. I don't remember, and I'm sorry about that. It's 30 to 50% of the girls that you see on porn sites are actually trafficking victims. So it's very much a real issue, and whether people think that they're supporting it or not, if you're looking at these things, more than likely you are in some way, shape, shape, or form.
Actually, totally agree with you there, Brad. And also the what I've dug a little bit deeper on child trafficking. A lot of it goes back to where we buy things from, because there's a lot of and I'll step on some toes here. There's a lot of big branded businesses that brand, but they're actually running child trafficking and human trafficking behind their business brand. And if we as human beings and had a look at where we spend our money and how we spend our money, we're being when you just said sometimes you don't realize that you're playing a role in it. I think every person on the planet has played a role in it, because we've been fooled by the branding, the name and everything, and we have never looked at what's sitting behind it. And I know myself, I've done a lot of digging over the last 3 years to become consciously aware of where I'm spending my money, what brand I'm buying, because I don't want to support these I don't want to put my money into it, right into where I invest my money, and that it's we get fooled. We're totally brainwashed and unaware.
Right. And Pastor Sam was talking yesterday about one of the things that they were discussing in this training was the fact that it's illegal to have them in the state of Iowa, but actually you can go onto Amazon and you can get the little microchips for implantation into pets, dogs or cats or whatever. And those are trackers so that you can, if your pet gets lost, you can find them and stuff. But the thing that they're doing is they're actually using these on humans, and they can track these girls and stuff. And Victoria's Secrets, for example, when he made that comment to me yesterday, it lent a lot more credibility to a video that I had seen a month or so ago, whatever it was, where a guy actually went into Victoria's Secrets and bought a couple bras, and he actually sliced them open. I don't remember if it was on the strap or on the tag, or if it was on the where it clasps together in the back. But there was actually, he sliced it open, and there was a little microchip in there, and so it was a tracking mechanism. So people need to be aware that I don't want to go Alice Jones or conspiracy theory or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that this is out there. It can affect every one of us, and it is a very real problem. I mean, for example, I say that it can affect every one of us. My own daughter, my 11-year-old, or now 12-year-old, got some letters from a young man who's 17, 18 years old, and much older than her, and he had no business writing these letters to her. And they contained questions and things that were of a very non-appropriate pornographic nature. This is my 11-year-old, and so we actually had to confront his parents and sit down with them and confront them with the letters and show them and say, this is a very real problem. You need to deal with it with your son, and anytime he's around anybody, any children, he needs to be supervised and stuff. And so it can happen to anybody, but that's the thing. That's where parents need to be active and involved. And one of the biggest things that I always tell people is this is not 100% all the time true, but it is a major contributing factor. Absentee parents, absentee fathers are a leading cause of children ending up in trafficking. When parents are active and involved and engaged with their children, and fathers in particular are engaged with their children, the trafficking risk goes down dramatically.
I can understand that, and because I think when we have that bond, and like you said, absentee parents, where everyone's at work over the last 30, 40 years, women have gone back to work, and it's okay for women to have careers and that, because I'm a woman and I've had one, and I went back to work, and I know that my time that I spent with my children when I did get home was always rushed, and you're not aware of what they're truly doing, whether it's on the internet, especially in the days of now with so much technology. We really have to be what I call, you may have a different word for it, but I call conscious parents. So we're consciously aware, and we're present when we are with our children. We are present. We're not in the office. We're present. And when our children wish to talk to us or have that time with us, that we actually listen. I think that's gone. And I know that there's times in my own life with my own children that because I was building my career, I was busy working, I wasn't, and I wasn't consciously aware of what they were doing. I thought I was, but I wasn't. It comes down to being consciously aware. And I know there is absentee fathers, whether it's through single parents or whatever. My children had an absentee father because he worked away a lot. He was never home. And yes, that did play an impact on the life of of the kids. But I think fathers can work away or be away, but it's up to that father to be aware. But then it comes back to the relationship between the two parents that aren't together anymore. There's so much conflict, and our children are used. Children are used as the toy to get something out of people. If we can come to that place of forgiveness, like you call it prayer, I call it forgiveness. That sometimes two people aren't suited together. But the number one thing is what is best for our children.
Right. Well, and this is the thing. I mean, I've had to, obviously I've delivered $1 million fire trucks all over the country. So I had to be gone occasionally and stuff. But when I was home, I had to be home. And so, and my wife is able to run our printing business from home. And so, it's, she's a broker, so she's able to be here and she's able to be homeschooling the kids and be active and engaged with kids. And one of the things that I would especially caution parents, and I know I'm going to make a lot of enemies here, do not give your kids a smartphone. That is the most awful thing you can do or one of. And I know I'm going to step on some toes, and I'm not trying to, well, I am trying to, because I care about your kids and I care about saving them. The smartphone is one of the leading gateways into your child's life for predators in the world. It is by far one of the quickest gateways. You are not always able to monitor all the apps that they're using. There are ways for them to hide apps. There are secret vaults that they can get to hide apps. There are apps like Snapchat where things disappear and you never see what they were sent. Smartphones have been one of the biggest gateways into your child's lives. It is okay for your child to have a dumb phone. My 17-year-old still to this day has a dumb phone. My 12-year-old does not have a phone. She will not have a phone until she's much older. My 17-year-old did not even get a dumb phone until he was 16 when he started driving, and that was just because he started driving. And it really is a gateway. Um, if you care about your children, please, please, please be careful. That is, I can't express to you how dangerous that thing is.
I totally agree with you, Brad, because we're just not just what sits behind. It's just not a gateway for the predators to get in there, but it's the programming that sits behind that that's happening with the mind on a whole nother level. And I've seen some documentation that has passed my way with what the AIs and and everything that is happening in, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Snapchat, Google, or whatever. And the biggest child one is, the latest one is TikTok, and it's massive for pedophilia. And I know that your president, Donald Trump, was absolutely slammed because he wouldn't let the Chinese bring it in, and he stopped it. For me, I went, that's amazing for what he did, because he's taken charge of just not the predators and the pedophilia, but all the programming that sits behind it. Because when we allow our stuff to go outside of our own country, into these foreign countries, they know a lot more, and the pedophiles and the child trafficking are actually coming in through a lot of these Asian companies and using their technology to come into our children.
Right.
But TikTok is massive, and it's really nice to hear a parent, a father, actually say, do not give your children smartphones. And I've seen children as young as 6 years of age, and they've got phones, and they're on there. The parents are giving them their phone, and they're playing with things, and then they've got iPads, and they come to the table, and they've got an iPad, and they're sitting there while adults are eating, and I'm just like, not in my house. You're not going to do that.
We have a rule. We have a rule at our house that no phones at the table, and that applies to me too. So when we sit down to eat supper, and if I break the rule and I have the phone there for a minute, the kids will yell at me to go, "Dad, put it away." So it's extremely important for parents to realize this. And you know what? If you really need to get a hold of them, and you don't want to get them a dumb phone, get them one of those wristwatches that they have to talk into. You know what? You can still talk to them, and they can still reply to you, but they don't have that access to the pedophiles don't have the access to them as quickly and easily as they could.
And I like that you brought up earlier about the tracking, the little tracking devices that are in the bras and that are in different things, because if they're available that way, they're also available when people in these apps where they say, put this app into your child's phone and you can track them and know wherever they are. Now, if we as parents have access to that, then anybody else can access and decode into that tracking device to know where your child is. And I think if we can start to use technology for good and really sort of become aware of and ask the questions around, why is this technology good for my child or not? A lot of technology is good, but some of it is used by a lot of people behind the scenes for shocking things, just not for our children, but for ourselves. Adults go missing and people don't know about it either. And I think it comes down to our governments, our governors, I think you call them in America, we call them premiers here, that we need to stand up and say this shouldn't be happening, and really stand up, not argue, not be aggressive, but stand up as parents, and stand up as one, and just say, we don't want this stuff in, because as adults, we're and human beings, it's up to us to say what we do want and what we don't want, but to do it in such a way that it is powerful, but not aggressive.
Well, and you're bringing up a good point, and something that when we were in church on Sunday night, one of our pastors was playing a video from an Aussie named Ray Comfort, and Ray Comfort will do these man on the streets interviews here in the States and stuff, and he'll go around and ask people all these different questions and stuff, and so he was during one of his man on the streets interviews, he was interviewing this young lady. He said to her, he was talking about the Holocaust, and his whole thing was that he was drawing it back over towards abortion and how the abortion Holocaust in America has killed 60 million and stuff. And he said to this young lady, he said in Nazi Germany, when Hitler was in power, there was many times where they would have a trench dug and they would shoot the Jews and they would just throw them into the pit. And a lot of times these Jews would be still, some of them would still be alive. And so what they would do is they would point the gun at a bystander and say, get in the bulldozer and bury these people, cover them up. And he said to this young lady, he said, would you, if you had a gun pointed to your head, would you get in that bulldozer and bury these people? And she said, yeah, I would. And he said, why would you do that? And she goes, well, because I'm just one person, and it's my life. I mean, what am I, it's my life or theirs, and I want to live. And so he goes, but I don't remember how it progressed from there, but she ended up saying, if everybody would just stand up and say this is wrong, then we can make a difference. And he goes, yeah, but everybody is made up of individuals. And she got boxed into a corner, and she went, oh. And she started seeing the fallacy of her thinking, and she started realizing that everybody is made up of individuals, and if one person will stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do this, then other people will come alongside and say, no, I'm not going to do this either. And then more people will join, and more people will join. And if more people will stand up and say, if the righteous and the right thinking people will stand up and say, this is wrong, we need to stop it. And, we could put a stop to stuff, but so often we don't want to get involved because, well, it might cause me some discomfort. Well, it might cause you some discomfort, but think about the rewards if you stand up and say no to this wrong, and people come alongside and stand up and join you and say no to this wrong, and more people join and say no to the wrong, and eventually the wrong stops. Think about the joy that is found in being able to stop something that is hurting people. I'm a farm kid from Iowa, and I'm out here in the, on a farm, and I'm working with people that are halfway across the world from me, but I can still make a difference. And I'm just one person, but I can still make a difference, because as I start standing up and saying, no, this is wrong, other people are coming alongside, and I just joined somebody else. And that's all I did was join somebody else. And I said, you know what? I want to come alongside you and help. And so now there's two of us fighting, and then there's more of us fighting, and there's more of us fighting, and it just grows and it snowballs, and eventually we can stop it, or at least make a major difference in it.
And helping people become aware, Brad, by I met you through another group, and that we were in, and it's just like, yeah, I want to help you share this message because it's important for me as well. And I agree, and I wholeheartedly support the work that you're doing. And as we are prepared to stand up, and a lot of people in today won't stand up and won't put this message of what you're sharing out there, or controversy out there, because in fear of being shut down, in fear of being called an idiot, or having their business name or their reputation ruined. But they're just small things at the end of the day, because these children, these women, these are more important. It's a life. It's we're not being tormented. So, my business name goes, or my Facebook page goes, my followers go, I just rebuild it. I've built it once, I can build it again. and
Right.
you keep doing that and
Right.
you have that same attitude, that's how they try. And people are so tied up in wanting, oh, I can't make a difference because it's going to ruin
Hmm.
my reputation. But we're
Right.
not judged by a reputation. A reputation
Hmm.
is what other people think. The most important thing is that I'm doing what's right in my heart, and I'm doing it
Right.
to serve others rather than serve myself.
Right. Well, and something that parents need to be aware of right now, and this I want to come back to this a little bit, is parents need to be aware when we were talking about technology and stuff. Parents need to be aware that actually the online trafficking is actually increasing right now because of COVID. We've had a couple really unique things happen this year, and I do want to share these real quick because they're really awesome success stories. Um, so January 22nd, Andrew and like 5 or 6 of his Bible students were praying. This was before he came back stateside, and anyway, they were praying one day, and he felt like the Holy Spirit said, "Hey, I want you to drive north of town." And Andrew's kind of like, "I don't know anybody north of town." He kind of argued a little bit, but he listened. He said, "Okay." And so they got into his car, and they started heading north, and they drove 50 miles down the tollway north out of town. And as they got about 50 miles out of town, one of the Bible school students speaks up and says, "Hey, I think we're supposed to turn on this exit." And so they turned on this exit, and they got on the side road, and they paralleled the tollway for about 15 miles. And all of a sudden, another Bible school student speaks up and says, "Hey, I think that we're supposed to turn around and go back to that little gravel 2-track road there." And so they did. They turned around and went on this gravel 2-track, and they went 3 miles down this little gravel road and ended up in front of this really ornate Asian gate. And um, they get out of the car, and they're kind of going, "Okay, why are we here now?" And this 90-year-old gentleman comes out, and he's walks up to the gate, and he says, "What's your business here?" real gruffly. And they're trying to figure out what to tell the guy. And about that time, his son-in-law walks out of the house, and he sees Andrew. I mean, you're talking about one of the only white guys in this country. And he stops, and he looks at Andrew, and he goes, "How'd you find me here?" And Andrew looks at him and goes, I know you from somewhere, but I'm not sure how I know you or where I know you from." And he goes, "I'm really sorry." And the gentleman said, "Well, you met me in my office a year ago." And Andrew was like, the light bulb came on, and he's like, "Oh, now I remember." The 40-year-old gentleman was a brothel owner that Andrew had sat down with a year ago at his office in town. And this brothel owner knew full well that Andrew didn't know where his in-laws lived. He knew that he didn't know that he was going to be there that day. He knew had no insight as to where this guy was going to be or anything else. And so this gentleman put his trust in Christ, and his parents became Christians, or his in-laws became Christians. And he turned around and called his business owner, or business manager rather, back in town and said, "Get all 8 of the girls ready to go to be set free. We're going to let them go tonight." And so Andrew and the rescue team were able to rescue 8 more girls that night. And then somewhere around our Independence Day over here, July 4th, we had another brothel owner actually somehow, through the boys in the club or something, he must have found out about us and actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, I need to surrender my 13 girls to you guys because I can't, with COVID shutting down my karaoke club, I can't, I'm feeding these girls and taking care of them, and I'm not making any money, and so I need to surrender them to you." So we actually rescued another 13 girls this year. So right now we're at 43 girls currently in our rescue facility, and we had our 2 female staff, so we have 45 people in a 2,300 square foot house. So we actually are in the process of running another rescue facility and being able to kind of divide and have more room so we can eventually rescue more girls and stuff too. So I didn't get to share that earlier, so I want to kind of come back to it.
And that's beautiful. That's the beautiful side of COVID, and that
Hmm.
you might say that it's the universe working in conjunction, or that's what I would say, as you would say, the Lord,
Hmm.
God, the Bible, and
Right.
working in and rescuing these girls and being drawn to where you need to go. So what I
Right.
want to say to the viewers, whether you are some of my viewers aren't, they're not atheists or anything like that. They just have
Right.
different beliefs. But it's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same belief. At the end of the day, it's your intuition that we would call it intuition. You call it Christ
Hmm.
or the Bible, and the studies and that. Exactly the same thing. Different words being used, but we're all being guided to the same outcome. And if we all choose to lead as I follow somebody on Facebook and YouTube, and he says if we all choose to live a goodly, godly life, then
Hmm.
we can only live with good things happening. And by living
Right.
that goodly, godly life is helping people become aware and protecting the child trafficking,
Right.
helping the children. Exactly the same
Hmm.
thing. I just wanted to explain that for the people that follow me. It's exactly the same
Hmm.
thing, and we should just keep our hearts and our minds open so we
Hmm.
can actually see what's truly going on and listen to,
Right.
even though it's said differently with different words, it's actually we're all wanting the same outcome at the end
Right.
of the day. It's really
Right.
important.
Right. And that's the thing, I understand that what we're doing, um, it sometimes makes interesting bedfellows, while we may not always agree on different things, we can all come around this one issue and we can operate in unity over it and stuff. And so, I don't mean that in a derogatory way that it makes
No,
strange bedfellows, but it does. It brings people of very diverse backgrounds together and stuff. And and so that's the thing is, whether we agree on all issues or whatever, that's irrelevant. At the end of the day, what's really important is getting these people set free. Some of the stats are that um, 4 million people a year are trafficked, and of those 4 million people a year, 1 million of them are children. So this is a huge problem, and it's a huge worldwide problem. In America, as much as I'm ashamed to say it, is one of the biggest purveyors and consumers of child pornography, trafficking. We're amongst the worst of the worst, and I'm ashamed to say that, but the fact is what it is.
well, Andrew,
And so,
yeah, Brad, I think you'll find that Australia is probably worse than America.
well,
I know.
there
I
may be
think
two
you know
birds of
that.
a feather.
So
Yeah.
we are from the information that I've received over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's pretty bad here in
Hmm.
Australia. From what I've been told by the people that I know in America, that we're actually probably the number one hub for pedophilia in the world in Australia. And then it goes to South Africa,
Hmm.
and then I think you'll find it could possibly go on to America. Doesn't matter who's
Right.
number one. It's not a proud thing to have
No.
the
No.
status of. It actually makes me sad as a human being to think that this
Right.
happens in the country that I love. Same with you, as
Hmm.
a proud American, that this happens and that we treat people like this.
Right.
And it's nothing to be it's nothing to be proud of. It's actually quite sad.
Right.
When I found that out, it just made me feel sick. I was just like, I'm not proud to
Hmm.
be an Australian anymore because this is happening in our
Right.
country. But on the other hand, I'm proud to be part of the allegiance, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
that's bringing awareness to this. And this is how
Right.
we can make a change, whether we're
Right.
directly involved like you are. But the other thing I want to just touch on before we go is there's a lot of people out there helping to rescue children, but they're not necessarily, and I'm not going to name them because that's not my place to do that.
Right.
And plus, I am protecting my own safety here. But there's a lot of people that are under the pretense of rescuing children, but they're rescuing them and sending them straight back into. They're
Hmm.
taking them from here and putting them back into into where they come from. Your company
Right.
and what you do don't do that. Is that what makes you different? That's what, and I want to make that point that I've listened to you, I've spoken to you off air, and that's one of the first things that you said to me. This is what makes us different, is that we're very aware of this other stuff. And you must have somehow, I must have been channeling you, because it was this like, I'm going to ask this question. So it is, they do that. Not everybody. We as we have to be aware who we're helping, because we may actually be helping to put these children back into, and these women back into the same situation.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, you know, when people come to Teshua and they purchase products from us, or they choose to donate to us, you know, and if you're not stateside, it's fairly expensive to ship products out of the country and stuff and whatnot. But people can choose to go on to teshuat.com or deliverance.com, because I know not everybody can spell Teshua. But if you go to deliverance.com, under the donate tab, we have a couple different options there, and there's one where it's a direct link to my partner's PayPal account, but that PayPal account does not go to him. It actually goes right to the rescue facility. So when they click on that link, 100% of that money, it does not go through the business funds. It does not benefit the business at all. It goes 100% of it goes straight through to the rescue facility. It costs us over $20,000 a month to care for the girls. When we had 20 girls at the beginning of the year, it costs us $10,000 a month to care for them. That includes food, rent, utilities, clothing, staff, all of that stuff is included there. But now that we have 23 girls or 43 girls in our care, you know, that cost is over doubled. So we're closer to $23,000 to $25,000 a month in expense just to care for the rescue facilities and care for the girls and stuff. And so 100% of that donation goes straight to the rescue facility. It's when people buy products from the tea company side that 50% of that profit goes back to the rescue facility, 50% of that profit goes back to the rescue facility, but all of the initial purchase of the products. So in other words, what I pay the girls, I don't negotiate with them. I pay them, Andrew pays them whatever they are asking on it. So if they're asking, you know, whatever on the bracelets, we pay them whatever they're asking on the bracelets, and then we bring it over here and we mark it up and we sell it, and then half the profits are going back to the rescue facility there too. So that's some of the ways that people can really get involved and tell people about it. Share the message of what we're doing, because we really want to economically empower the girls so that when they leave our facility, they're not going back into the same situation that got them into being trafficked in the first place. They're not ending up on the streets. They're not ending up in you know, back into maybe their home village that got them trafficked. They're not ending up in you know, they're able to stand on their own. They are able to have that nest egg saved up to where they can be an insurance salesman on their own, standing in their own place, you know, living in their own place, standing on their own, and able to hold their head up and be a really productive, vital, contributing member of society that doesn't have to hold their head down in shame and go, look at me, you know, this is what was done to me. They can go, yeah, that's where I was, but look where I am now.
I love it, because you're empowering them not to be victims.
Right.
And so many of us can sit in that victim mode and not move in. And I just love the way that you explained it, and that to empower somebody not to be a victim of their circumstances, but to be more than that, and shine their light out there onto the world, and be the human being that they come here to be. And there's a saying that I like to use from Carl Jung, and he says, we're not what happened to us, we're who we've chosen to become. And these girls that are working through you and your rescue, they're choosing to become more than what happened to them. And I just think that's amazing. And for you and your business partner to help these, and I know your wife would be behind it as well, even though you're the front and you're talking to me, and your whole family would be aware of it. You know, That's
Right.
that's amazing, and to come from right in the middle of America, where you are, and like you said, to be one person to be involved in it. If every person did something, that one ripple can go out and
Hmm.
create many changes. Just by chatting today, some more people may choose to get involved. Some more people
Right.
may choose to become aware, and we can be aware. But then it's whether we do something about it. If we're aware and we choose not to do anything about it, then we turn a blind eye. But my personal belief is we're just as bad as those
Right.
that do it, and that's just my own personal belief. Because once we are aware,
Hmm.
we cannot become unaware of what's going on.
Well, and I want to leave people with something here that if you take anything away from what I've said today, I want you to stop and think about something. You know, in America here, 60 million of babies have been aborted, and I'm definitely not a supporter of abortion. Obviously, um, they never got to have their dash. And by the dash, I mean the time between their birth date and their death date. They never got to have that. And and as I like to say, and it may be, take this for what it's worth, and maybe on the little bit on the vulgar side, but we all came out the same place, and we're going to all end up in the same place. As far as we were all born the same way, we're all going to die the same way, we're all going to go into the same hole in the ground. But God gave us two hands and 2 feet and a brain in our head and a heart to operate with, and compassion and mercy. And when we choose to, it doesn't matter what has happened to us. It matters what we do with that dash in between our birth date and our death date, and what do we choose to make our lives of now. So many people run around and they want to cry victim mentality. Oh, I was born in the ghetto and I can't. That's not true. You have two hands, you have 2 feet, you have a brain in your head, you have the ability to educate yourself, you have the ability to learn, you have the ability to grow, and we have the ability to make a change in our world. We just have to take the gifts that we've been given, the two hands and the 2 feet, and put them to use, and to go out there and start working. And when we start working, we start putting our hand to the plow. Guess what? When we start putting our hand to the plow, we can all of a sudden we can start planting in that ground, and we can start raising a harvest. And when we start raising that garden, we can then get to the harvest, and the harvest is what we need in our lives. And and so when we start doing that, taking those actions, and stop crying about what's happened to us, and start taking the actions to rectify it, and to make a change, and to be that agent of change, and to go out and to help others learn and to grow and to be the agent of change, then we can really make a difference in the world. And then we can get to that hole in the ground, and we can look back at our lives, and we can say, I made a difference with the dash that I had.
Oh, love it. Couldn't have put it any better myself, because I often say to my clients and those on a lot of my shows that the most important thing is not the day you're born or the day you die, it's what you do in between the dash.
Right.
And that dash says a lot about you. And you just articulated it so beautifully, so thank you for sharing that with me. So Brad, how can people get involved?
Okay, so they can do two different things. There are several different things here. They can go to teshuatea.com, or teshuahtea.com. I also made it easy, deliverancetea.com. That'll take you right to the site. The same web page, two different URLs redirect to the same site. So deliverancetea.com. My page may be a little bit on the slower side. It's not as fast as Amazon. We're working on that, but be patient. Give it a couple more milliseconds, and it'll load. But go to techuatea.com or deliverancetea.com, and you can choose to donate under the donate tab, or you can choose to buy some of the products, the bracelets, the coasters, whatever. And then share the message with the girls, or share the message of the girls with the people that you're buying the bracelets for. Give them as gifts. We got Christmas coming up. Share them as gifts, and tell people, hey, this was made by people that were rescued out of trafficking, and that are rebuilding their lives. And then come over to the Liberty Unveiled podcast. That's libertyunveiled.com, and give our listen or give our show a listen. You may not always agree everything that we say. We do approach it from a Christian standpoint, but give it a listen and share it with those around you, because we talk about the stories of the girls. We talk about the rescue missions. We talk about what's happening in their lives. We talk about different things like that. And then we also talk about how that source of freedom that they're experiencing is the same source of freedom that America experienced in our early stages, and how we need to go back to that, and how that will help America come back to the solid foundation that we started on.
I think the whole world there, Brad. I think the whole world will go back to the solid foundation, no matter what country we live in, whether it's Australia.
Yeah.
We all need to go back to that
Yep.
solid foundation to create the golden earth where we're going to, where we are all one, where there's no division, there's no sex trafficking, there's no we're not divided from gender to race,
Right.
to religion, to whatever, and to remember that we've all got a right to free speech, and we've all, but at the end of the day, we all live here together as one, and we all help one another, and then that way we can create
Right.
community that will then look after our age, look after our young ones, and be on the lookout, because we'll be in a much better place of peace. And that's where, for me, that's what I want to see the world in peace. And when we can all get to that point of peace and there is no evil, what we're going through is, we're fighting every day, dark and light. And the more that we can share our light out, the more that we can win, and the more that we can help people, and we can take away the evilness that is on the planet, whether it's sex, child trafficking, sex trafficking, drugs, whatever,
Right.
corruption, and all of that. And it's up to each and every one of us to play our role in that. And sometimes, it can be a simple prayer, or no matter how you pray or what you do, whether it's meditation, prayer, we can raise that vibration. And I'm sure that's what's been happening with what you said before about COVID, when through prayer that Andrew went back and was told to do this. And that is the same. You are told in that, whether you want to call it prayer or you want to call it meditation, we get that information where we go off and we do what we need to do. And it is God. There's only one God. We don't have 20 million gods up there. There's only one creator. And no matter what name, whatever religion we have, that we all go back to that same place. And it's all the information is coming through from the same. This is my belief, coming through from the same place. We're just choosing to call it something else. And I've really enjoyed chatting to you today. I put all your details in the chat for people to be able to find you. And I just want to say what an amazing man you are to be a father of 6, grandfather of 2, and also be involved in helping so many of these women, these girls, these young girls from 11 to however old they are. And you shared with me earlier when we're off screen that you were told that the youngest person that was 3 months old, and the oldest person has been 73 that you've rescued. So that's
that was actually those numbers were from here in Iowa. The state of Iowa had, or rescue groups here in Iowa had rescued. The age range was 3 months to 72 years old. I mean, I can't even imagine a 72-year-old lady being trafficked. It's just, or a 3-month-old. I mean, both of them just
let's see,
just absolutely fried my mind. And so the youngest that we've rescued was 11, and I think the oldest was like 17 or 18. I'm not exactly sure on the oldest. Most of them have been between that 11 to 14, 15-year-old range of the girls that we've rescued. And we do have on the website, on the teshuat.com or deliverance.com, we actually have some of the stories of the girls and stuff. And so the pictures that you see there are, even though they're the pictures of the girls, even though they're doctored and kind of, not, I don't want to say animated, but doctored for lack of a better word. Those are their pictures, but we try to keep the the actual real picture out of the mainstream, and that's why we doctor the pictures and change the images a little bit so that facial recognition doesn't work with it and stuff. So you
And
can go
that's
in and read some of the stories about the girls there.
and that's their safety, and that's a good way. That's a good way to be.
Right.
So once again, thank you, Andrew, for joining me this morning. Sorry, Andrew just keeps coming into my head. Maybe I don't know why. I've never done this before. I've done it.
That's all right. It's okay.
He must be channeling somewhere going on here. But yeah, so thank you so much, Brad, because all the correspondence has been Brad. So thank you, and I will thank Andrew for whatever he's channeled in or known somehow channeling in for whatever. And yeah, he deserves a massive pat on the back.
He does.
At the end of the day, this man is truly putting his life on the line, his safety.
Right.
And all those amazing people that help him and the team that's on the ground. You know, I can't even think about what they see, the sights that they see. And I hope that they're getting the emotional support that they deserve, to continue their work. And yeah, we can just send them lots of love and lots of prayer, light, whatever we want to send them, and some donate and put out there that the world changes, because if we believe in that, we get back what we keep putting out. If we put out negative stuff, that's what we'll get back. Put out positive stuff, and that's what we'll receive back. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see all my viewers next week.
All right, thank you.